Welcome back to On Mind Tracks. We just listened to Dead Roses by Weezer, and followed by that is Noses and Roses Forever by Desert Sessions. Desert Sessions is actually just like a collaborative effort between like Josh Homme and just all of his musician friends. It's been going on since like the 80s, but the only ones that you can find are like, there's only certain ones you can find still. But he just brings out a bunch of people out to his place in Joshua Tree and records some jams together. The place is called Rancho de Luna? Is that what I said?
Oh, I don't know.
Rancho de Luna? If that's wrong, I'm sorry. I'm going to read off Wikipedia the listing of artists that are on this album, which is volumes 11 and 12. Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top, Stella Mosgow of Warpaint, Jake Shears of Scissor Sisters, Mike Kerr of Royal Blood, Carla Azar of Autolux, Les Claypool,
Of Les
Claypool, Primus, Matt Sweeney, Matt Berry, which he does his own solo work too.
He does, like, it's like pretty good.
It is! I was so excited when I saw him on the list, like, when this was about to come out, and then, like, mostly what he's on is on, like, their joke song. And then, Libby Grace. I think there were more people that were involved, but they're not listed right here on Wikipedia. One of my favorite Desert Sessions albums, and it was such a delight, because it came out in, like, 2018. And I'm just like, it was after 2017, Queens of the Stone Age. That's where Josh Homme's from. Sorry. My favorite band is Queens of the Stone Age. So, Villains came out in 2017. That was produced by Mark Ronson. And a lot of people just, I mean, commercially it did well, but a lot of people just did not like that and were hating on it. So, like, this coming out in 2018, I'm like, he's back, baby!
He's back. He got away from that evil Mark Ronson who makes everybody sound so smooth.
Yeah, his evil friend, Mark Ronson.
While we're talking about people that maybe the fans got a little disappointed in him, what better time to talk about Weezer? We played Dead Roses before that, and that was off their album OK Human, which I have incorrectly identified as OK Computer, but
it's okay.
Ignore me. It's because I'm... whatever. So, OK Human was an album they'd originally planned to come out later on. They were working on a different album. I don't remember if it was Van Weezer or not, but they were working on a different album. And then the pandemic happened, and they're like, well, let's look back at OK Human and get that out instead, and they did. And it's actually some of, like, I think some of Weezer's, like, strongest writing he's done in years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sound stupid because I am a Kool-Aid drinking Weezer fan, but it almost gives me more of an impression of Pinkerton in some of the songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the best known one off that is like Grapes of Wrath is one of the better known.
Well, I have to be honest here. I'm the one who picked out that song. I have not listened to that album at all. And after I heard that song, I was like, this is good.
Yeah, it's got actually I think the bigger single off of it was Numbers. But Grapes of Wrath is my favorite one off of there, so I get confused. Because as we've learned in my previous episodes of Collected Works, when a song is my favorite, I assume it's the album's single. So even when I'm not picking the single, I'm picking the single in my mind.
Look, dude, I don't go off singles, man. I just go with the flow. I can't even say flow. What is going on? This heat is getting to me. The flow.
It's a little toasty up here. Please support us so that we can afford to get, air conditioning running in my house more often.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm kidding, but not kidding. But, OK Human was an album that they did with an orchestra. So they had recorded kind of these orchestral parts to go with it. Because that sounds confusing when you're like, oh, it was the pandemic they released it, because they couldn't do stuff with people. But
yeah.
It is. They kind of shelved it. It's kind of in the vein, there's a couple albums that have been done like this, but the one that always comes to mind is when Harry Nilsson did A Touch of Schmilsson in the Night, where he deliberately did a bunch of standards and stuff with a full orchestra. It's kind of like that, except it's original material. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
talking too much about Weezer.
It's
so-
okay. I went on and was reading monotone Wikipedia, so.
Whew, not a lot of shows coming up in the. Well, last week we saw They Might Be Giants.
Yeah.
Your first They Might Be Giants show. How do you feel?
It was. Line. It was very fun. There was a lot of people there though, so we were struggling to try to be able to see because I'm not super short, but I'm not tall.
Well, we discovered something the second night. When we came in, they were supposed to be wristbanding everybody for whether they were going to be general admission or like pit or general admission, because pit we paid more for. They didn't wristband anybody, so everybody from whatever section was just going down to the pit because nobody was stopping them.
Yeah.
So that second night, we got in the pit much easier, and it was nice and loose, but then after the break, everybody just went down to the pit anyway, so
Yeah.
it got crowded. But
Don't blame them.
But yeah, so...
Well, the thing was, is like, once we actually got in the pit, there was a lot of room. It's just getting through everyone.
Well, I think with that show, I think a lot of people gave up on the pit after the first set because it was so full. But, what did you think of the music? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. No, I've never had anything against They Might Be Giants.
AJ and I went to both nights that you and I went with our boyfriends to the first night.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun.
You're married.
Oh, yeah, I guess. I'm always trying to demote him. Our favorite thing when we first got engaged would be, like, we're not dating anymore. We're engaged. Anyway, this Friday I'm going to see Bridget Calls Me Baby at that festival.
Well, me too, potentially.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not sure if you are or not.
Well, I'm down to see it. Like, whenever you sent me that, I was like, heck yeah, that looks fun. And it's in Springfield, where, like, one of my other friends lives. But I don't know. Gotta see if I can fit it around with work. And we're potentially going to see Motion City Soundtrack next week.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So lots of good shows.
Mm-hmm.
If you are wondering what shows are coming up in the Central Ohio area, be sure to check in on NoMoreBloodFromAClone.com to check out our concert menu every week. I'm working on improving the overall structure of the blog, but I'm not there yet. Yeah, because like for some reason it wanted to change the font size of each category header this week, and I went back and tried to change it, and then I updated it, and it still looked the same, and I'm like, I'm not doing this right now. I'm having a rough time. I can't. Why does the HTML screw me like this?
No more blood from a clone. It's .com.
So next up, we have two more Roses songs. The first one is going to be Roses by the Cranberries. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this album, that's understandable. The album, I think, is also called Roses. I consider this to be kind of the Cranberries' final studio album while Dolores O'Riordan was still alive. They technically did one after that, but it was just acoustic recordings of some of their bigger hits, and then they released one posthumously. But in my mind, this is kind of like their last album, and it was pretty good. I listened to it when it first came out and did a review of it over at NoMoreBloodFromAClone.com. This one is kind of a pretty emotional song, but the whole album itself is not bad, and it's, later on in their careers, so it's a time when most people are just living on their hits, so gotta appreciate that from it. So here's Roses by the Cranberries on One Mind Tracks.